This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore! Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Welcome, everybody, to the current state of WWE. Anthony DeMarco is with me here on a Monday night, as Monday Night Raw is currently being recorded, as I always like to say, because anything that we're talking about tonight, if something changes our opinions, we don't know that until we watch Raw. So I'd like to preface that with giving you guys that disclaimer. Now, we're going to start the show with something that is a little bit different than the Bloodline stuff. We'll get to the Bloodline stuff in the second half of the show, but Anthony, first, welcome, and let's start talking about LA Knight, man.
LA Knight, would it be fair to say the most popular wrestler in WWE right now?
And he has no business being this popular. And yeah, I would argue yes. And I'm sure you saw the clip of him in Madison Square Garden that was not on SmackDown when he interrupted Top Dollar and Ashante the Adonis and the whole Hit Row group. Did you hear that reaction?
Wait, when he hit Top Dog, was that on SmackDown?
No,
or was it
that
like
was
a
not.
dark?
It was a dark segment.
That's so dumb. You know what? I was watching SmackDown with a buddy, not to go on a tangent here, but I was watching SmackDown with a buddy last week live, and I rarely watch any wrestling program live. I'm always at least a day or two behind. But I was home alone on Friday night. My girlfriend was out, and my buddy came over, and we were watching SmackDown, and we were both waiting for LA Knight to come out, and he never did. And then the next day or so, I see that he had a dark segment at Madison Square Garden, and to me, it screamed of tone deaf on the part of creative. And for the most part, I've agreed with how creative has handled LA Knight recently, but to me, that was complete tone deaf to have him in a dark segment.
I'm going to take. I'm with you. It is, however, the fact that clip and that they knew they were going to post that clip has gotten well over 1 million views already and is one of the highest rated videos that they have over the last several weeks. Knowing that, hearing the reaction in the biggest, most quote famous arena in the world, Madison Square Garden, I'm trying to, I guess, defend a little bit WWE if it's not incompetence, but rather strategic, where they're sitting back saying, okay, and Triple H acknowledged this at the post-press conference of Money in the Bank. So, they know. It's gone all the way to Triple H. Triple H is very aware of what the fans feel and what they want, and he said the good things come to those that wait after the backlash of LA Knight not winning the briefcase. So my argument against that would be that if it's not broke, don't fix it. The support has been coming and coming quickly for LA Knight without WWE getting behind him, without LA Knight being on WrestleMania at all, without him winning a match for months, without getting mic time consistently, losing to Bray Wyatt in minutes. So he's been getting and having this growing organic support by WWE just sitting back and going, okay, we're just going to sit back. I know it's not a sustainable strategy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they can do this forever at all. I mean, they're going to have to pull the trigger and actually get behind him. But my point is maybe the purpose of them doing this is not doing anything at all, and a bit of reverse psychology going on. You know what? We're going to step back. Things are working as they are. We'll eventually pull the trigger, but why are we going to mess with something that's not broke right now?
I think for Triple H, what we've learned, and I've said this before, and it's not a profound statement of any kind, is that it's all about the long game. And LA Knight was probably the best example of WWE falling ass backwards into I don't want to say megastar, but a star. Because if we remember, he was supposed to just be a stepping stone for Bray Wyatt back in November, December, whenever it was when they started their program. And lo and behold, 7 months, 8 months later, Bray Wyatt's nowhere to be found, and LA Knight is getting the best reactions and the most positive reactions and the loudest reactions of anyone in the company right now. And What I see is Triple H and creative, hopefully, realizing how special of a situation they have at their disposal and not rushing into it. And I think that what we saw under Vince McMahon a lot of the times in his last, let's say, 10 years in the big chair, not to say that he doesn't have any say now, it's kind of obvious that he does from time to time. I think Vince always rushed into things. Like when he saw someone was getting over, he would shove it down our throats. Case in point, Roman Reigns. And I think that what we're seeing with Triple H and his handling of LA Knight is that they don't want to sabotage what is happening organically. And what's happening organically is that as much as LA Knight loses, as insignificant as his placement in the card and on shows week to week feels, people are getting behind him. And even though he was losing and he was on a massive losing streak at one point in the spring before and post WrestleMania, it felt like WWE was always putting him on television. And I think what we have to realize is that, especially on SmackDown on a 2-hour show, if you're on television every single week, even in a losing capacity, it's for a specific reason. And I think we're slowly starting to see that specific reason. And the biggest one is that we haven't even realized it. There hasn't been an official turn, but he's a babyface now. He has slowly been positioned as a babyface. And I think for WWE, it is just about giving it a slow and steady kind of push into the babyface world and not force feeding it. And like you've mentioned, and I'm in 100% lockstep with you, is that giving him the briefcase would have sent the wrong message, because it would have sent the message that he is still a heel. And to me, they want him as a babyface. And in my opinion, maybe aside from the Usos right now, is there a bigger babyface on SmackDown?
I'm trying to think of somebody. I don't
Sheamus?
know. I mean, Sheamus is always just at that same level, and that's not to say Sheamus is actually one of the unsung heroes. I was talking about this on my weekend review. Like, Sheamus deserves so much credit, and he doesn't get it. And that could be a whole other conversation. But no, I don't think Sheamus obviously is at the level of LA Knight yet. Sheamus has been there for 15 years, and he's had great match after great match, and has been kind of the constant guy there to help elevate talent, and just you can plop him in a main event and he's believable. And he had the match of the year arguably with Gunther several months ago. I mean, so yeah, Sheamus certainly is a babyface and a big one, but LA Knight has just come out of nowhere seemingly and just taken over everything, and it's crazy. But my concern is this, that once WWE says, okay, we're going to get the machine behind him, whenever that moment is, which I would not wait too long to do this, playing kind of cat and mouse game where, we're going to pretend we don't see him because the fans keep supporting him. Eventually they're going to have to get behind him. But when they do, my concern is that fans, when they sense that, are going to have that reflex of, oh, wait, WWE's getting behind him? I'm not that interested anymore. Like, I'm concerned that, because the fans have done that before. When they sense that somebody's behind, the machine is behind somebody, all of a sudden the interest wanes. It's happened before. I hope that it doesn't happen with LA Knight, and they come up with some kind of strategic way where it doesn't feel like the machine's behind him, even though they are. So that's my concern, because everything right now is kind of like the anti-system. Like, people are screaming at WWE. They're trying to send WWE a message. WWE has received the message, but they're pretending that they don't hear it. And then the support grows and grows and grows and grows. And then when they finally go, oh, okay, you guys want this guy? All right, well, I agree. Let's do it. And then the fans go, oh, well, I don't know anymore. Like, I'm worried about that. Does that concern you at all?
Yeah, it does. Because here's the thing. I remember going to a Monday Night Raw in July 2014, about a month or two after the Shield split. And that crowd was so behind Roman Reigns. And I remember people were completely behind Roman Reigns in Montreal, live when I was there in attendance from Monday to Monday. And then he got hurt. I don't know if you remember, he got hurt in the fall of 2014. And when he came back, I believe it was around December 2014, he got a major push, won the Rumble, the infamous reaction in Philadelphia, even with The Rock trying to put him over. And we never looked back because WWE knew what we were doing, or WWE knew what they were doing, rather. And I think Triple H is trying to learn from that. They don't want to put the rocket ship to him. They want to kind of present an underdog story, a slow burn, a slow ascent to the top of the card. And I don't see an issue with that. Like, you look at John Cena. Think about when John Cena started gaining traction in, let's say, mid to late 2003. It took him about a year and a half to finally conquer the mountain and win the WWE Championship from JBL at WrestleMania 21 in April of 2005. He slowly turned babyface leading up to Survivor Series 03. All of 2004, he spelt in the U.S. Championship picture, fighting with the likes of Booker T, Orlando Jordan, or whoever, the Big Show at WrestleMania 20. And then slowly got that push into the winter of 05 and fully conquered the mountain and became the face of the company in 2005 by the summertime. And I think that, not to say that LA Knight is going to become a John Cena, but I think that's kind of what we have to look to as to why WWE may have something here and why they are playing this a certain way.
Yeah, I would hope that's their thinking, and they're going, okay, right now we don't have anything imminent. Let's keep things as they are. We're playing the safe game. The crowd loves them to begin with. We're not going to just put them in a program to push them when we don't really have a destination. Let's figure this out. And that's smart. I would be on that. I'm on board for that. I'm all about the safe road here with LA Knight because they could have something special. It could end up being nothing. There's also the chance that this is just kind of a flash in the pan. Do I think it's that? No, but there's that chance. However, you're not going to know until you do implement the plan. Speaking of that, and we can just discuss this and then move to the bloodline. What do you think the ultimate game is for LA Knight? Many are thinking he's already the favorite to win the Rumble in 24. I think that's actually crazy enough to be probable. I think there's a good chance that it's either Gunther or LA Knight to win the Royal Rumble. Do you think that's the ultimate goal if things continue along this ascent for LA Knight? Like, where do you what's next for LA Knight? What is the end game?
I mean, I think the end game is getting him into the World Championship picture, whether it be the WWE or the heavyweight title. And I think winning the Rumble is a good way to catapult him there. Like, I mean, yeah, Gunther is certainly a candidate, especially after his showing in this past year's Royal Rumble. And, you know, would LA Knight be the correct guy to dethrone Roman Reigns for the WWE Championship? Something that we could get into in a few minutes. But I think that while that's the end goal, and I know that this isn't a profound thing, I think you've discussed, I think others have discussed it, but it just feels like in the immediate future, the U.S. title needs LA Knight. And that's not something you want to say. And I like Austin Theory, but I think that this reign that he's been on, specifically since probably since WrestleMania, unfortunate as that is to say, has just really fallen flat in my opinion. And I think that the belt could use a fresh kind of direction. And given how hot LA Knight is with the crowd right now, I think putting a championship would do him some good as well. Maybe throw the rabid dogs a piece of red meat and hold them off a bit. So I think in the immediate future, the U.S. Championship, long-term, the Rumble would certainly make a ton of sense.
I can't argue with that. That's what I'm thinking right now too. The United States Championship, maybe he wins it against Austin Theory at SummerSlam. Maybe it's at Payback, wherever they go, or at Fastlane, oddly in October, which is just so weird to me. And so, yeah, like that's probably the path they take, and they're going to take the slow approach. If things start to fall off in a big way for whatever, obviously LA Knight doesn't have to win the Rumble. There are other good candidates. So, yeah, this is a good next step for LA Knight. I mean, we've been speculating about the U.S. title for him for a while, and the Austin Theory dynamic is just mind-boggling, given that the match that was supposed to propel him has actually seemingly done the opposite for Austin Theory and has turned him the complete opposite direction that they hoped he would go after beating John Cena at WrestleMania. Of course, the way he won and the fact that they had no plan clearly for him after WrestleMania didn't help. But yeah, he needs to just drop the belt. I feel like the belt is losing its value after all the great work they did building up with Bobby Lashley fighting for it and Seth Rollins fighting for it and all the video packages they did for it. it feels like right now the belt has lost some of that value, and it needs to change hands quickly. And Austin Theory is going to be a great talent. I have no concerns about it. But it needs a new owner, and that new owner could easily be LA Knight and have him hold it for a few months until the Rumble season comes around, and then hey, all bets are off. But all right, any final thoughts on this before we get to the bloodline and Jey Uso and Roman?
No, I think we said all there is to say about LA Knight, and I think everyone's kind of on the same page. It's just about how WWE is going to execute it, but at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very curious. I would love to be a part of those production meetings. I would love to somehow be a fly in the wall, bug their office or sneak into a Zoom meeting or however they meet and just hear what their ideas are, what their plans are. I'm so curious what they're thinking about this LA Knight stuff. Because they hear us. I mean, anybody that doesn't think WWE hears us, I mean, they do. But, all right, well, let's get to Jey Uso and Roman. I mean, this past week, one of the longest segments ever on SmackDown, continuous segments, 35 minutes and then some after the second part of the show. I mean, you're looking at 45 minutes total dedicated to the Bloodline story that really didn't feel that long, which is just attributable to excellent storytelling consistently, great acting. Was it a little long? Yeah, but no one's really complaining about it. It's amazing. Ultimately, it ends with a low blow from Roman on Jey, and after he had pretended that he was going to give up being the tribal chief and anoint Jey, and gives him the low blow, results in destruction of Jimmy and Jey. Jey comes back at the end of SmackDown and takes the belt, attacks Roman, and attacks Solo with a chair, and then holds the belt and just tells Roman he's challenging him to another match. He's going to whoop his ass basically, and but doesn't specify that it's for the championship or where. I mean, I don't know why they're trying to pretend that that's a hook, that, is he going to challenge him at SummerSlam? I mean, it's a foregone conclusion, I would imagine. So before we get to the possible outcome, is that how you took it when you watched this with Jey and Roman with holding the belt, but not even mentioning, I'm going to come for something you love, and here's where I want to challenge you? It just felt a little bit too vague for me.
Well, I mean, WWE often does this vague, right? Like, they always kind of lean into a championship match in a vague capacity. And, you and I remember when we first started doing this show, we would joke about all you got to do to get a title shot is attack the champion. And it kind of felt like this as well, like in this instance, rather. But at the same time, I think we all saw that it was heading towards Jey and Roman Reigns. And even though they didn't officially say it, I don't know if it's been officially announced on their social media or if they're going to do it this week on SmackDown or what have you, but it feels like this is where it's going, especially for the fact that Roman hasn't defended the title since WrestleMania. So we are 3+ months, which is just absolutely insane in all the worst ways to think about, but we won't go down that rabbit hole. But they were very vague, but I still think if you use common sense, that is where they're really heading with this. And I think it's probably the best destination because they've been telling the story between Jey and Roman for almost 3 years at this point.
Yeah, when you think back to how this whole thing started, I mean, yeah, it's right. Jey and Roman eventually were adversaries to begin with, and eventually we had the whole I Quit match, and that's where Roman pulled out the tears, as he did this week, which was just brilliant, and choked out Jimmy and threatened basically to injure his brother if he didn't say I quit. And I mean, then everybody kind of eventually came together and bowed at the altar of Roman Reigns. So there's a ton of history there. I know that some people's view is, Jay's not a big enough star to face Roman at SummerSlam, and I've heard rumors of that, and but it has to be. The story dictates it. Jey Uso's not a household name. All right, he's not somebody that you'd go up to somebody on the street if they know anything about wrestling and say, "Do you know who Jey Uso is?" Most people would probably be like, "I don't know. It sounds familiar, but I'm not sure." He's not a household name, but at the same time, the story has been so damn good, and it's been going on for, as you said, for 3 years. It has to be Jey Uso at SummerSlam. So, assuming that's where we're going, and we finally get the confirmation next week or the week after, do you think there's any chance that Jey is the one to dethrone Roman? I would imagine there's some chance in your mind, but do you have a percentage? Do you think there's a significant threat to Roman's belt, or is this just one of those, close but no cigar, kind of like the rest of his matches?
I'm going to say close but no cigar just because that's what we've been conditioned to think. But at the same time, maybe that's what WWE is going for. But at the same time, like, would it not come full circle if it was Jay? Like, would it not make all the sense in the world if it was Jey Uso? Like, is there a better story to tell than Jey Uso being the one to conquer Roman Reigns? Like, you could say LA Knight, you could say Cody Rhodes circling back, you could say Seth Rollins, but there may not be a better case than Jey Uso. I don't think that it will be Jey Uso because of the other guys I just mentioned. I think they want to get to Cody Rhodes again. I still do believe that somewhere down the line, Seth Rollins is going to collide with Roman Reigns for that WWE Championship. But if you actually kind of just look at it from a story perspective, I don't know if there's a better justification for anyone than Jey Uso.
Yeah, the story certainly would not make anybody sad if it was him to take it off Roman. And I'm with you, though. I don't think it's going to happen. The thing is, as we get to SummerSlam, I'm already looking at WrestleMania from SummerSlam. There's been many, many storylines over the last several years that have started at SummerSlam and ended at WrestleMania, even in the women's division. So I'm really thinking early call that if Roman and Jey is official, it doesn't happen and Roman wins. Now, that said, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. However, if Jay's not the one, I mean, I could see. I'm not going to mention He Who Must Not Be Named, and I'm not talking about Voldemort. Okay, so I keep saying it, but we keep getting closer, and now there's civil war. There is intra-family rivalry. There's intra-family bad blood. It keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed. Yeah, I mean, we all know the name I'm talking about, and is that possible? It's always possible. It's always on the table. It's a nice round number of 40. There's a lot of symmetry going back to Philadelphia from WrestleMania or Rumble of 15, and 9 years later, I mean, there's a lot there. So if Jay in a losing effort, I think the match is going to be awesome. There's no question about that. Crazy amount of, or even a stupid amount of finisher kickouts. All that's kind of to be expected. Probably Jay there, Solo. Maybe Solo turns on Roman, but I don't know. Do you think there's something massive that happens even if Jay does lose?
I want to say that Voldemort will come back.
We'll just call him that from that. Yeah.
We'll just call him Voldemort. I want to say that Voldemort would come back, and I've spoken with my buddy about it, and we've both said, just like, as someone who's started the wrestling business, would he not be frothing at the mouth to get involved in this story? Would he not want to do everything possible to be involved in this story while he still is semi in his prime? Mm-hmm. I mean, I just rattled off, Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, but there is a better story to tell even than Jey Uso, and that's The Rock.
Yeah.
And that's not even to say that the belt has to be involved, but I don't know. I'm not going to speak for The Rock. Obviously, he could give a damn about what I think, and I'm probably so off base with it. But I think that there will forever be a regret on his side if he never, ever gets involved in this story. Because like we've talked about with Shane McMahon versus Triple H, and that's not even to this degree, it writes itself. His music hits, and the second that the first syllable comes out of if you smell, everyone would hear if. They would know why he's there and what's about to happen. And to me, I just can't understand why he would be willing to pass that up.
There is not going to ever be in the rest of The Rock's possible return career a better scenario for him to return, because, as you and I have discussed as well, there is probably a babyface turn for this group in 2024. There's not a better time to come in and interject himself into this story. The group is going to be babyface probably next year, which means The Rock's not going to return to face a babyface Roman Reigns. Doesn't make any sense. They have to strike while Roman is still a heel, while there's intra-family issues going on. That kind of thing. This is the perfect time, the perfect time to strike. Everyone's healthy. There are no injuries, God forbid. And The Rock, as you said, is not going to win against Father Time. Even the almighty Rock cannot beat Father Time. We are all slaves to it. So a lot of factors are lining up here. WrestleMania 40, nice round number. It's in Philly. A lot of history there with Roman and Rock that you could pull from. The bloodline, his family is fighting amongst each other. You have a champion that's number 4 on the list now of top champions, or longest reigning champions of all time, claiming he's the head of the table, claiming he's the alpha male of the family, of the entire Samoan dynasty. Like, everything is there. If he doesn't do this, there will be, I don't care how many more movies and records he breaks, that wrestling that's in his blood will boil, and it will not ever, that wrestling blood inside him will never forgive him if he skips this. For, I don't care, whatever movie. I don't care if they're trying to reboot, The Wizard of Oz or whatever, like the biggest movie of all time. They cannot do this without The Rock, or at least The Rock cannot, I think, go on in his life and not regret if he doesn't strike now. So that's all I'll say about Dwayne.
And you don't want to speak for him, but think about what a missed opportunity this would be for the history of the wrestling business if he never comes back. And I'm not talking about just coming back to, cut a promo on Roman in 3 years' time. But whenever you think that it's running its course, this program, they somehow pull you back in, not to use the cliche. But that's what they've done here. You thought WrestleMania 37, that was the time for The Rock? No, there was a better time. Then WrestleMania 38, no, he didn't show up, but now there's a better time. WrestleMania 39, no, even a better time because of the turmoil within the bloodline. But I don't know if we could be saying this again in 1 year. We've been proven wrong 2-3 times before, but now because of the turmoil within the bloodline, I don't know if there's a better opportunity. And for him, I don't even know if he's really acting anymore. He's owning the XFL. He's still doing his Under Armour stuff. He's doing whatever. But I feel like it's just time, And this would be a second major return for him. Yes, he went from 2004 to 2011 without anyone seeing him on WWE programming. But it has been since 2019, before COVID, for the debut episode of SmackDown on Fox since we've seen The Rock on WWE programming. Him showing up 4 years later for this program, it would feel, in my opinion, just as important, if not maybe even bigger, as when he showed up in 2011.
That's I think a good way of putting it is this is not just something as fans we need to see. I think it's a wrestling industry. It's that big. I mean, the Rock, obviously, one of the biggest names in wrestling, on a lot of people, Mount Rushmores of wrestling, the Samoan family. I mean, that whole family in wrestling, they are one of the most respected and longest running lineages in pro wrestling of all time. Obviously, there's others. We know the names, Dusty Rhodes, the Harts, we know, but they are still one of the most dominant and currently dominant forces in terms of families in professional wrestling. So you have to, he can't not do this. This is something that is, to me, this is industry wide impact. This is not just, oh man, yeah, WWE fans, poor them. AEW fans are going to be tuning in. Any other wrestling fan, any other they are going to be tuning into this. It'll bring back fans that stopped watching to see what's going on, much less those that are just, independent fans of Ring of Honor or New Japan. This will be a worldwide event. This is a industry-wide event. I really believe it would be that big. So, of course, obviously, tons of money involved, higher ratings, the storyline continues, and sure, The Rock will probably lose, and that's fine. He probably should lose. And then go back to Hollywood as expected, but it's the spectacle. It's the part of the story that hasn't been told that needs to be told. You can't not tell this part of it. Unfortunately, though, it's not up to us. It's not up to WWE. It's not up to Roman. It's not up to Usos. It's not up to Paul Heyman. It's up to the one and only Dwayne Johnson. He's the one making the decisions here, and being able to clear his schedule to do this. So, that's all I'll say on that. But any thoughts, any final thoughts on that, or really focusing back to Jey Uso? Any final thoughts on him too?
Well, not to bury Jey Uso, we're kind of throw shade at him, but I just think that if The Rock came back, there'd be a way bigger fish to fry than Jey Uso. And that's no slight on Jey. I just think it's just a massive story that needs to be told.
Yeah. Yeah. If it doesn't, I will say at the end of the day, if it's true, The Rock says, my schedule again, my schedule again, my schedule again. Like, I'm tired of hearing about his, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sick of it. I'm tired of hearing about his schedule. I'm tired of hearing, we know you're super busy, bro. Like, we get it, but you have this opportunity here and you've teased it many times and, my schedule. And Triple H even said, The Rock was going to do it. He was going to have a match with Triple H. I forget what WrestleMania it was, like 7, 8 years ago, when Rock and Triple H came face to face backstage in one of the most funny segments ever. When I think they were the Authority back then. Was it 2015 or whatever it was? They were going to have a match at WrestleMania because The Rock and Triple H have never had a match at WrestleMania, and that was supposed to be the beginnings of it. And it ended up being The Rock canceling on WWE because of his schedule. And because of his schedule, like, I don't know. I can only hear that excuse so many times before I'm like I have resentment towards that individual. Like, so when you have a year heads up, there's no excuse not to clear your schedule and say, hey, unless it's a family emergency, something that is obviously trumps anything. There's no XFL meetings. There's nothing I'm planning for Hollywood. There's no training for a specific role in a movie. Like, I'm dedicating this amount of time to this, to WWE and WrestleMania. And then after WrestleMania 40, I'm back to whatever I want to do. But so I don't want to hear the excuses anymore. I just don't want to hear them. Like, it sounds like insane, but like that, I don't know. It sounds selfish as a fan, but that's how I feel.
Well, no, as a fan, you just want to see The Rock, one of the greatest to ever do it, come back and be a part of a storyline that's tailor-made for him.
Yeah.
It's just that simple. And it sucks because he could just show up and be like, this, that, and the other thing, I'm seeing you at WrestleMania, and everyone would be like, yep, that makes sense, because the story's already written.
Yeah.
And he could literally put aside 10 days between now and WrestleMania, and the build would be that good because the story's already written. So I think we're just waiting for him to be the guy to finally say, yeah, you know what, green light, let's do this.
That's just it. And in closing, that is the thing that is also advantageous to WWE. There's not a whole lot of effort that needs to go into, well, we got to fill this hole and that hole of the story. Well, why does it make sense that these two need to come together? There's really nothing that you need to tell. Like, just let The Rock go out there. I mean, there's really nothing to do other than put video packages together, and that's really it. Like, there's nothing you need to worry about creatively. Everything is already set. The Rock will, if he came back at SummerSlam, would be just there probably at that event if this happens, and then scattered throughout the rest of the year as he did with Cena. That was a build that that worked just fine. That was a year build, and they could make it work all the way to WrestleMania 40, and you could have The Rock looming over, and Rock's going to be advertised to be in, I don't know, Miami on December 12th, right, like a Monday Night Raw. I mean, you could build those events, and they'd make it work just fine. So, all right, I'm done with that. But Jay, sorry, man, there's probably no chance you're winning. If there's no Rock, and that's not going to happen. Jey Uso has a chance. It's just not a big one. So, all right, I think I'll end there. But before we roll out of here, Anthony, I know you did the retro. We're back this week. And let everyone know what the topic was this past week, and also any social media you want to share.
Well, coincidentally enough, it was about The Rock and his build to his WrestleMania match with Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 18. I think it's really cool to go back and watch that. Not only the build of him tagging with Stone Cold Steve Austin against the NWO, one of probably the most untalked about Raw matches ever. Like a handicap match, NWO against Rock versus Austin, like that. That's crazy. That's something that should have been happening.
And Austin was actually briefly in the match with Hogan. So Hogan and Austin actually had a brief interaction together in the ring. Yeah. So
it is crazy to me. Like, we always debate, like, should it have been Austin over Rock instead of Hogan? I mean, against Hogan. And you could make that debate. But for me, it was more the fact that not only did he not face Hogan, but they threw him against Scott Hall. Yeah. Like, to me, the main event of that WrestleMania should have been Austin versus Triple H for the Undisputed Championship. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's going to send me down a rabbit hole. But Austin has talked about that time in his life many times and how he was in a really bad headspace, whatever the hell that means. I think he was going through a divorce on top of a bunch of injuries. He knew that he was heading towards the end of his career. He has talked with JR about the whole Hogan thing and why they never crossed paths, and it was really because of Austin. Hogan had nothing to do with it. WWE wanted it. Hogan wanted it. It was because of Austin, and he felt that the match that he would have with Hogan wouldn't live up to the standard that he would want it to be at that time. Take that for what it's worth. But that tag match that you're talking about on Raw, it's mind-blowingly big when you think about that matchup. It's just what the NWO meant to WCW, what Austin and Rock meant to WWE. It's really a match that you would people would drain their bank accounts if you told them in 1999 that would happen. Certainly, yeah, great review. Hogan and Rock still delivered in Toronto. The infamous crowd turn on The Rock, and I would recommend everybody check out Retro. And thanks so much for coming on, buddy. And anything else before we head out?
Well, follow me at AdaMarker25, and you'll catch me this week back with a new Retro on Friday.
Awesome, very good. All right, buddy, we'll be talking in a week.
Yeah, man. Talk soon.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.